Sure, but still nice to see some of you here. So let's begin by doing a bit of meditation for about half an hour. So let's sit in a way that is comfortable. And I hope you all have had a nice sleep. And this is morning time for you on a Sunday. So it's a bit different to a weekday night. And hopefully the body is well rested and you have had some breakfast. So it has some energy. So hopefully it is in a really good state now to become a bit more peaceful. So to allow our body and mind to become still. So whatever it is, even if you have not had a good night's sleep, if you have not had breakfast yet, if you have aches and pains, or if you are in a very peaceful and lovely state, whichever it is, it doesn't matter. The idea right now is to accept whatever it is here with this body and with this mind, however it is feeling, however it is, just allow it to be with kindness, as if it was your best friend. If it was your best friend, and if they were grumpy or tired or happy or highly excited, whichever way it is, you usually accept them because you have affection for them, you have a lot of friendliness to them, you know them really well, so you allow them to be the way they are. So you can also consider your body and your mind also like your best friend. And allow your body and mind to be as it is, instead wanting it to be otherwise. So no fighting, no pushing, no want to get rid of anything, but rather with gentleness and kindness we allow the body and mind to just settle down into here and now. I often like to use the touch sensations of my palms or my feet or my sitting muscles as a way of initially grounding and also establishing mindfulness in the body rather than it going into the mind. Just some physical sensations to ground you into here and now. And whenever the mind is going to the past or the future, gently bring the awareness back to the touch sensations and allow the body and mind to become still. As you're becoming peaceful, as you're becoming still, if you notice the natural flow of your breath, then you can gently shift your awareness to notice the breath coming in and breath going out all by itself. Our job is to be like somebody at the beach, just watching the waves come in and waves go out, just watching the breath coming in and the breath going out. As we are getting close to the end of this meditation, take a few moments to see how you feel now. How is your body? And how is your mind? Now I invite you to take 3 long, deep breaths. And at the end of the last one, you can open your eyes and come out of meditation. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm wearing the wrong glasses. Now I can see people much better. Okay. I think I have provided the title. I don't know whether anybody saw that. A happy and simple path, or a simple and a happy path. Attractive, isn't it? Is it the case? Have you so far found it to be happy and simple? No, not yet. Okay, let's see what the Buddha said. But the Buddha said it's a happy path, and a path that is simple is probably my view of it. Let's see whether we will agree on it towards the end. Let's first read. I would like to read a sutta, a brief sutta, just to show that it is actually a happy path. This you probably already know, but and this is from Anguttara Nikaya, which is Numerical Discourses, chapter 10, Sutta number 1, called What Purpose? So I'm going to read. It's quite brief, and then let's see how it goes. So, thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said to him, Bhante, what is the purpose and benefit of wholesome, virtuous behavior? This is what we call in Pali as sila. And the Buddha answers, Ananda, the purpose and the benefit of wholesome, virtuous behavior is non-regret. The Pali word for this is avipatisari, non-regret, right? So the whole point of being virtuous, keeping our sila, is so that we do not have regret coming up in our mind. And I will continue on the sutta. It's quite simple, and then I will go into more explanation. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of non-regret? The purpose and benefit of non-regret is joy. So we are now starting to see joy coming up. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of joy? The purpose and benefit of joy is rapture. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of rapture? The purpose and benefit of rapture is tranquility. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of tranquility? The purpose and benefit of tranquility is pleasure. So far, happy? Going from joy to rapture to tranquility to happiness. Yeah. To pleasure. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of pleasure? The purpose and benefit of pleasure is stillness. Yeah. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of stillness? The purpose and benefit of stillness is knowledge and vision of things as they really are. The Pali word for this is yata bhuta jnana dassana. So seeing things for what they are. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of knowledge and vision of things as they really are? The purpose and benefit of the vision of things as they really are is disenchantment and dispassion. Yeah, nibbida and viraga. And what, Bhante, is the purpose and benefit of disenchantment and dispassion? The purpose and benefit of disenchantment and dispassion is knowledge and vision of a liberation. And it goes it goes again, the whole sequence. And the Buddha says, thus, Ananda, wholesome, virtuous behavior progressively leads to the foremost, meaning all the way to full enlightenment, right? It starts from virtue. So we can see that there are no shortcuts, side tracking, just find a good technique and meditation technique, and we can bypass all of these other things because we think about sila, virtue, oh, it's just primary school stuff, right? Okay, never mind. I can, do all these other things. And if I find my good technique, the right teacher, and then I can get enlightened. But it does not seem to be the case. Yeah, it is a foundation, the virtue, your morality, your good conduct is the foundation from which the enlightenment, the full liberation of the mind happens. So it is really, really important. I mean, this is not something that you already don't know, because I know Ajahn Brahmali at every retreat goes through this sequence. It's quite powerful because this shows the psychology of meditation. This is also showing if we are struggling in our meditation, if we are not getting joy, if rapture is not coming, if there is no tranquility, if these things are not coming, where should we look into? we look into our conduct, the virtue, our conduct. Of course, then this is where, we can decide whether it's simple or complicated, depending on it is. But this is where the problem is. This is where more work to be done, because often people think, being Ajahn Brahms, Ajahn Brahmalis, and Venerable Chanda's disciples, you're probably very much conditioned into not doing too much during meditation. But you know how many people think that more work is to be done when we sit. It's about the technique and doing things when you sit. But in this sutta and the sutta that follows, the next one is called Na Chetana Karaniya, or no volition is needed. And in that sutta, the Buddha says exactly the same sequence. And it says somebody who does not have any regrets or remorse in their mind do not have to exert volition and say, may my mind have joy. A mind that has no regret and remorse is naturally joyous. So we can relate to that. And that is the starting point of meditation. From there onwards, all we got to do is sit and wait. And it is easy to sit and wait. Why? Because when the mind has joy, when the mind has energy, the present moment is quite pleasant. So when it is pleasant, it is easy to stay. This is why Ajahn Brahm says, just sit and wait. So what our problem sometimes is that where our minds are not as pure as his, right? So sometimes it might be a little bit difficult. It might be, not as easy for our minds to stay in one place. Maybe joy levels don't come so easily. For him, it seems like when his tiredness, his jet lag, and all of that settles down, mind goes into joy, because probably his sila and conduct is pretty good. So for us too, depending on where we are, and I'm sure most of you have pretty good conduct, in the sense you have been trying your very best to be, the best you can be. And of course, if we are not yet fully enlightened, of course, we have done silly things, and sometimes still do. Things happen. We forget, and this is where what I want to focus about. So the purpose of reading out this sutta is to show that, once we take care of our conduct in our day-to-day life, especially outside of meditation, what we do is what is helpful for when we sit down and all the way. So it's not to be underestimated, our conduct during our every wakeful moment, also outside of meditation. So this is where more work to be done. And if you wish, the right effort, energy, even volition, even a bit of willpower, all of that comes into our conduct, to restrain, to do the right thing, to stop ourselves from doing the stupid things. And we all know how challenging that can be, right? I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up, but in your mind you can put your hands up. But we all have very mindfully done stupid things, haven't we? In the past, before we come to the path, we didn't know. We can blame on our stupidity. We didn't know. We didn't have mindfulness. We were not practicing. So what can you do? So that's all right. So we can forgive ourselves. Because we didn't know that we were doing stupid things and no mindfulness, so what to do. But now, after being practicing, going on retreats, fully mindful, knowing really well, we still go ahead, and sometimes really hard not to do the stupid things. This is where I want to just talk about, because this is important, not to feel guilty still. Because this is what being a human being is like, having a mind is like. Our mind is incredibly, it's like this wild bull or a wild elephant, or like, untamed. It is really an untamed. It wants to do what it wants to do. It goes where it likes to go, right? It wants to think what it wants to think. This is how it is. It's like the mind is one thing and you are another thing, even though supposed to be the same thing. You know what I mean? I'm sure you can relate to this. You probably have a big argument sometimes with your own mind, mind trying to tame it, but it sometimes has its power. So understanding where does it get its power and how do we tame our mind, and this is now where the whole gradual training comes about. Yeah, this is where we have to be patient, we have to have a good attitude. So don't think it's difficult. That's why I wanted to sort of sell it as it's simple. It's not that complicated either if we put in the right courses. And if we understand what's going on, then it is possible for us to, without feeling guilty, without beating ourselves up for our misdoings and stupidity, we just slowly put in the right courses. So there are a couple of things. So one of the things is mindfulness. So even if we are aware, it is not sharp enough to stop. We are mindful that we are going to do something that is a bit not good or stupid or going to lead to not so good results. Still, it is not sharp enough to bring up all the aspects. How bad it is going to be, really, that is sometimes not coming into the awareness. All the consequences of it and the dangers of it, all of that maybe is not strong enough. But mindfulness itself isn't enough. Yeah, mindfulness itself isn't enough. I'm sure these days lately I've heard Ajahn Brahmali had come up with a really nice simile. This is like when you cross the road, right? When you're crossing a road, sometimes these days you can see people are with their mobile phones, right? They're completely not mindful. They're in somewhere else with somebody else, but they still stop when they come to a big road with traffic. Right? And that's not because of mindfulness, that is because of view, because they know the road is dangerous. You could die if you don't stop and watch left and right to see whether the road is clear. So it is the right view or the view that also helps. So this is a very good simile, good place to show us where we are unable to stop ourselves is we have some wrong views. I'll tell a very simple one. This is known by everybody, so I'm not ashamed to say. This is my chocolate cake sins, so to speak, because I'm a diabetic. Right? I know fully well that I shouldn't be eating chocolate cake. But I very mindfully, knowingly, everything, some days can't help myself and have it. Right? And then I was investigating why. I mean, this is really stupid. I mean, how many times mindfully doing this? I mean, I know it's only that much. Still, why do I do it? The reason is because, yes, I have the right view that, all the bad things that can happen because of chocolate cake. It's full of sugar, which is poison for you, full of cholesterol and all these things. Yes, those views are there. But on top of it, there is the view, it's yummy. It's really, really yummy for me. I mean, some people may not like sweets, so they would think, what's the big deal? But for somebody who is a sugar addict, it's a true addiction. Yeah, it is a different story. So every time you eat, another thing gets strongly written, another view saying, this is yummy, this is delicious, must eat this. Yeah. So there is these two views. One view saying it's bad for your health, it's only this much, and all of these other things. But on top of it, there is this other thing, but it is also gratified, right? Because that depth, the onset, the buildup of cholesterol, all of those things, I can't feel straight away, right? It's a slow depth. I can't really see it. But the pleasure of eating and enjoying it is here, right? Even though it is short-lived. So that reinforces. So I'm bringing this simile out for all the other things, not just for chocolate cake. All of those, your pleasure addictions, yeah, whatever pleasure that you're addicted to, yeah, it's just the same. You know the danger, you know why you shouldn't do it, you know all the problems involved with it. But every time you do it, the little bit of the gratification is very little. Chocolate cake also only until it lasts in your mouth, right? After it's finished, it's gone. couple of seconds or couple of minutes. So are so many of these other pleasures in the world. They are also very short lived. But each time you do it, the gratification, we are, used to amplifying it. And then you rewrite, yes, this is great. I like it. I want it. Yes, so that view gets strong. So this is the struggle that we have. So, and we have to understand this is the real problem. So we have to identify, starting from maybe small ones, things that you can deal with. Don't take your most difficult one. Try with the smaller ones, and then seek how can I slowly, change my view. So you have to up your right view. So I have been watching a lot of health channels, health videos, reading up all the bad things about sugar and how to overcome sugar addictions. If you're serious about it, you got to do this. So you, in the same way, we have to do more of the reflections of the danger of your bad addictions or bad habits, whatever it is. I don't want to call it bad, but unskillful or unhelpful. I don't think eating chocolate cake is kind of considered immoral, but it can lead to difficulties in the spiritual life, right? So this is the thing. And there could be things that are immoral as well. We could have also immoral habits and addictions as well. So we have to work with this gently and gradually, understanding each time. Instead of regretting and remorsing about it, that is of no use, but start and see the danger, start contemplating the danger, the difficulty, how you feel afterwards, any of those things. If it has a not so helpful consequence, you see it's actually not good afterwards. Afterwards, your mind doesn't feel good. This is the thing about unwholesome, unwholesome things are pleasurable in the short term, painful in the long term. This is very true. But we forget that long term pain and we go for the short term pleasure. So while we're still unable to break it, at least notice once the pleasure is over, the onset of the difficulty, the problems that comes with it. And as you do it, there will come a time your mind says, that's it, I'm not going to be stupid anymore. So that's one way of doing it. Also, you can replace these things. So you have to give like a little child. If a little child is doing something, we know how to trick a little child, right? So you give something else, another toy, distracts them to something else. So in the same way, we also have to maybe give our mind another slightly better version, a slightly better distraction, or something else that is enjoyable. And I realize with the sugar addictions, if you have a really tasty wholesome meal, sometimes your craving actually goes down as well. So you're satisfied. You're satisfied with another kind of meal that is still wholesome. So like that, this is just a same simile, because it's easy for us to understand with food, but it applies to everything else as well. So whatever it is, if you're addicted to watching things, replace the whatever you're watching that is not that wholesome with something that is a little bit wholesome, or at least neutral. Like that, we have to slowly, gradually pull our mind. With some things, you have to go cold turkey, but with some other things, you have to be gradual. So you have to see how your mind works. And some of our minds are very stubborn, retaliates. Some of our minds work with, gentle ways of doing things. So we have to figure out ourselves, try. But this is where we need to work. If we never do this work and try to just sit morning and evening for a period of time and try to find all kinds of different techniques to keep our mind, it's not really going to still go very far. You'll become peaceful, you'll enjoy a little bit, but if enlightenment is in your agenda at some point, then it is important to do this work. We're working with these things. So the whole gradual training, all of these other teachings are actually directed to this, how to deal with this. So it is about building perceptions. The thing is, we have wrong perceptions. Even about sugar, getting it as pleasure. It's probably a painful feeling, at the end of the day, when you compare that with maybe very pleasurable mental feelings like, the joy states of meditation or nibbana, if you compare to that, the pleasure of sugar is probably a very gross, painful feeling. Yeah, so this is all a whole graduated thing. So this is where we just got to build up. So also, as our meditation grows, as we have other wholesome states coming up, then also these things tend to fade. So it's like a holistic approach. You have to address it with all ends. If we having a really grumpy, difficult day, it's very difficult. So you go for the sugar or whatever pleasure that you are addicted to, just to overcome that yuckiness of the mind. Yeah. But as you become more peaceful, when the meditation is growing well, then it becomes better, because our why we go to the sensual world is when there is suffering in our life, when there is unpleasantness, unsatisfactoriness, some form of difficulty that we are experiencing, then we try to look for some pleasure in the sensual world. I mean, because when we don't know anything else, that's what we tend to do. So what we need to do is, in the meantime, while we still have these things, we also do whatever level of meditation, but then we understand why sometimes it does not progress, because according to the sequence, like if you don't have regrets and remorse, you get enlightened. Right? It has to go, but we know it doesn't go. Sometimes it goes to different states, and then you can know, okay, I must have been living pretty well for a period of time, which is why I'm now experiencing maybe tranquility, maybe joy is coming up, all of these things, and then we can see, yeah, this is working. This is how the mind works. So putting that effort into taking care of our virtue, how we conduct ourselves, and seeing the danger. I mean, the real problems is not the chocolate cake, the real problems is how we speak to somebody, how we act, how we think about things. These are the much more real problems that we have. These are also habits. We have thinking, certain ways of thinking habits. It's very common to have fault finding mind, ingratitude in the mind. All these kinds of things are also almost socially ingrained as well, because when people get together, they try to complain about something, right? This is kind of the conversation that in the modern world we get to. Even news, when we hear, is like that. So our mind just get conditioned to thinking and in these kinds of ways. So we have to this is why it is going against the grain. So this is where we need to put in our work. And now that even we know what needs to be done, and I'm sure this is not the first time you're hearing this, you have been working on this, right? And you know how difficult it can be. And one of the biggest reasons why this is difficult is not a personal failure. It's not because I'm not good enough or that I'm lacking something. The only thing that you are lacking, if at all, is rest. So this is what I always, every time I have an opportunity to give a Dhamma talk, if this is the only teaching I give for the rest of my life, I want to encourage people, especially in the modern world, to have enough rest and taking care of our well-being. It is the lack of rest, both physical and mental, is the biggest problem, why it is so hard for us to do the right thing. Yeah, and why we do the wrong thing is because of physical and mental tiredness. And this is not just me saying this. Actually, if you want to look it up, look at the Magga Samyutta. Now, I forgot the chapter. It is in the Connected Discourses, a whole chapter dedicated to the Noble Eightfold Path. And also, it is found in the Bojjhanga Samyutta, which is chapter 46 from the Samyutta Nikaya Connected Discourses. The Buddha says all of the factors for awakening. There are 37 of them, 37 factors that are there to be cultivated, to be developed in order to get full enlightenment. All of them are to be developed based on 4 foundations. Yeah. And what are these 4 foundations? I'm going to say in Pali, in the word of the Buddha, and then I will say what it in English. Viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vasagga parinami. So viveka is solitude. Yeah. So based on solitude, raga is passion. So viraga is this passion of allowing things to fade away. And nirodha is allowing things to cease, come to an end. So we can't hold on to things and also expect for the path to develop. Yeah. So it's not like the things that I still like, I hold on to. We can't. So viraga is this passion. We are ready. Our mind is inclined for this passion to come for everything that is there. So we have that consent given and things to cease. And a mind, Vasaga Parinaming means a mind inclined on Nibbana, extinguishment. But even just for now, you can leave the last 3, but focus on the first one, because first one is the most important. This is how usually sequences are. Everything else is almost what comes afterwards. So solitude or seclusion is very necessary. So the Buddha is saying, if you want to develop, cultivate the path, solitude is number 1. Yeah, solitude is really, really necessary. And solitude is described in many ways. There is, first of all, starting from Kaya Viveka, so physical, so the body. So if you live in the city, in the busy places, still you can find a room, a place inside your house that is quiet, a bit more peaceful, calm, where you can go sit and allow yourself to rest. Or time to time, if you have the opportunity, go to the monasteries, go to a forest. I'm sure in England there is, in wherever you are living, there are beautiful forest groves, parks, some nice places like this where it is away from many people and is quiet with the nature. So that physical separation from busyness is necessary. So we can't have our television and our mobile phone and all of those things and also meditate, we understand. So that is necessary. That also includes the rest, a good sleep, good kind of health, like well-being in the body is necessary. And of course, even if you are in a physically secluded place, if your mind is having all kinds of desires, your mind is having all kinds of ill will and negativities, all these things, then the Buddha says, yes, you might be in a forest lodging far away from everybody, but you are, my friend, not alone. You are living with a second person, and that second person is called desire, or that ill will or negativity, all of those things, that mind state, you're living with that. Especially desire or passion is shown to be a second. We want something, we desire something. So then that also shows what is seclusion. So it is also the mental seclusion. So the mind being free from the defilements and the hindrances. So this is why we now start to meditate. So meditation is there. And today the time is not going to be enough for me to talk about this, but there is a very beautiful sutta in Numerical Discourses in chapter 4, maybe it is sutta number 14, called Solitude. In there, the Buddha talks really interesting ways about solitude. And the first form of solitude, the Buddha says, is actually sila, virtue. Interesting, right? You never think solitude and virtue, the number 1 solitude, there's 3 ways to do it, 4 ways. And then first one is called, sorry, it's not in the 4s, I think it's in the 3s, three ways, 3 ways, 395, I think. First one is sila. Now, why is virtue called a solitude? Because when you live virtuously, like in a good way, like whatever you do by body, speech, and mind does not hurt yourself or hurt another person, So the mind is free from regret and remorse. Isn't that a beautiful solitude? A way of being secluded from unwholesome things? Because regret and remorse is painful things, right? When that is present in the mind is not at ease. So that is why the virtue is given as the first way of building solitude. So even if you are at a in a city house or suburban place or an apartment in the middle of the a city, you can still find solitude when you start to practice and become more virtuous. That virtue give that mental solitude, which is much more powerful than even the physical solitude. And the second one, I'm only going to have time to only name them. The second one is solitude from coming from right view. Yeah. So right view is a big subject. We can have a whole series of talks on that. But when we have the right view, right attitude, right way of aligning our way of looking into the world with the way the world is, it brings together with it a lot of peace. Yeah. A lot of peace, incredible amounts of peace. I'm sure you have heard Dhamma talks about on this topic, so you can relate to it. How, when your view is aligned with the way things are, that brings incredible amount of peace with it. So this is also called as solitude by the Buddha. And the third one is solitude from the asavas going out, the taints. So these are the things that takes you on and on in samsara. So that happens at the time of full enlightenment. So anyway, this is just to mention how the Buddha describes solitude, but viveka, the foundation. So that is why solitude is a foundation. Viveka is a foundation. So that foundation has your physical solitude and well-being, taking care of your body and mind. And then your sila, that is now coming into mind, and also to your view. Yeah, right view. So building these up is really how we are able to build up our virtue, because we said that why we sometimes mindfully also do stupid things is our view isn't strong enough. So we have to build up view. So these things goes together. So slowly we need to learn as knowledge first, and then the right view, and then we sort of see it through our lives, and we contemplate it, and then we see it through meditation. So we become right view eventually. So you slowly internalize what you have learned. So working on that is incredibly helpful, because that view, when that gets stronger, that is when the sila gets better. And somebody who is attained to view is the person who is in the first level of enlightenment, called stream winner or sotapanna. That is the person who's attained to view. Their view is now established, and they are also now fully in sila. They are purified in their virtue. So you can understand the connection, and this is the way we are heading. So, the more and more we purify our virtue, the more and more stronger the view becomes, right view. The more and more our right view is, the more and more easier it becomes to be more virtuous. Yeah. So, and this right view and right virtue is what supports meditation, as we saw in this sutta. Then you don't have regrets and remorse. The mind has joy. And the joyous mind then builds up stages of happiness and bliss all the way to enlightenment. It's like a compact summary, a big overview of how things work, but it is important. It's nothing that you don't know, but sometimes it's good to review and see the big picture of how things work, so you understand where you need to do some work and how to do this work, where you need to build up more. Yeah, and slowly doing that work is necessary, not just only sitting and watching the breath and struggling at times and wonder what's wrong with me. Rather, we also need to work with these things outside of the sitting meditation as well. So it's gone past 5 past the hour. So I will stop here and open up for any questions. I'm sure there's questions because it's a very challenging kind of thing. So you are welcome to ask or disagree or challenge. I will try my very best. Okay, please, Caroline. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you for the beautiful reminder of these wholesome activities. While like 9 years meditating and helping in monastery and so on, I now recognize that I have like to work with strong emotions coming up, and I realize that I can, or I'm not sure if I'm realizing it or if it's like a dilemma. But it seems for me that I need to, because I'm avoidant or I avoid talking about how I feel and like interacting with people about my emotions. And it seems a block, a block. I don't know if I expressed right,
Yes.
but it seems a block, and it seems I can't resolve it in meditation, being quiet, being with my own. And I wonder if I'm doing already this like emotional work with other people, like having groups and so. But it's always, when I come out of this, it's always like unsettling and like, ooh, all these things are very present, and I'm absolutely not serene, and
Yes.
and I wonder if this emotional work I could do on the cushion and just doing nothing, and it will be solved by itself, um, like in being quiet, or is it necessary to, like from the karma point of view, is it necessary to work, to interact, to solve it with interacting?
Well, it's kind of very interesting. I am in the age where this is very apparent for myself itself. So we have to understand where these emotions are coming. This is very helpful, not to take it personally, because when we take it personally, it already has another added problem with it. They are my emotions and why I have them. It feels as if I have created them, and I also start to feel then guilty also. Why am I creating them? You can sort of feels that way. Yeah, sometimes you do. Then when you understand, actually a lot of our body has a lot to do with our emotions. As you know, the neurotransmitters can trigger and influence. And this is a part we can't do very much. It's not we can't do completely. There are things, your food will affect, your sleep will affect, the weather will affect, your exercise will affect. These things will affect, but it's still a chemical trigger there is, yeah? So when you understand that, there is some work that can be done. Now, we are not even coming into meditation and real Dhamma work, but this still is important. Yeah, this still is important to recognize, because it is the mind that is getting enlightened, but it has to, up until that moment, go together with the body. It is a burden, but the body needs to be there. The mind can't exist without the body. So body has to tag along, but the body has its own agendas. And I'm sure it's not only for women, for men as well, for everybody. We all have neurotransmitters triggered by all sorts of stuff. So we have to understand the bodily involvement of our emotions as one thing. Yeah, sometimes this is good to know. And of course, there will be other things related to external, like people or situations that we are going through in our life. So then that also we can see. So these are things that are happening in my life. And often they come together, they join forces. Yeah, then it becomes more difficult because, the body is also not very supportive, and then there is a difficulty. But other times the body is in a good shape, so the difficulty comes, you can deal with it. So it's interesting and fascinating to watch this because it's not all the time the same. Then you realize, you slowly identify patterns, how these things come. So with the physical body, there are certain things you can do to help. I'm sure you can Google and find these things out. So that much we can do easily. Yeah. And then there is a part of the body that we can't do anything. There are bodily cycles that we can't intervene. That we have to just accept and know how to be smart. Okay, now I'm more extra sensitive, I'm very highly combustible, like more irritable. So maybe stay quiet, maybe don't do certain activities, don't meet certain people if you can. This kind of wisdom even the very ancient tribal people had. Yeah, even they noticed these things and they retreated. Yeah, sometimes when they realized these things are, if they are cyclic patterns, they knew. So it is becoming aware, wise, understanding what are the triggers, how are these coming. So you ask whether you should not do absolutely anything. No, this is where we work. Yeah, we understand where these things are coming from. But the most fascinating thing about this is, so you get rid of the fear. This is really important. Yeah, we have to get rid of the fear of emotions, because once we start to suffer from, I mean, we don't have any problem with the good emotions, right? So nobody complains about that. It's the unpleasant ones, right? And once we have gone through a little bit, it feels like trauma. Oh no, here we go again. I don't want this. And that itself makes things even more unbearable. But in order to overcome this is really helpful when you actually see that we can't hold on to these things. Whether we like it or not, it passes. So noticing it, however unpleasant it is, you have no choice sometimes but have to be with it, right? What to do? You're in that state, you just have to stay there patiently sometimes. And you see, after a while, it actually passes. At the very worst, you go to sleep, you have a good sleep, wake up, it's for sure changed. At the very least, if you're in a really difficult state at night, then you finally fell asleep, you woke up a different person sometimes, it's like this. But it doesn't even have to take that long. Sometimes within minutes, also it changes. So when we watch that, when we don't struggle with it, and when we see it passes, because these are conditioned things, right? They're called sankhara. Yeah, they're made up things. They're conditioned. So they're there because of causes and conditions. One is body, one is mind, one is extra things from outside. It's a combination of those things. And all of these things are not within my control, which is what the Buddha says with non-self, right? These are already caused. So once you see that it is actually passing, and when you have that attitude of it's actually not mine, it's just conditioned, not to take it personally, the fear of it goes away. You have more confidence. I'm not going to be suffering this for the rest of my life, and it's not going to kill me. Yeah, if I can stay, it's going to be okay. So slowly, then you can allow it to be. However, if the emotion, when you stay with it, is starting to overwhelm you and you feel like you're getting drowned by it, then it is important to take action. And the Buddha has in the discourses, was it in the Vitakka Santana Sutta? I think it is Majjhima Nikaya, Middle Length Discourses, maybe Sutta 18, 19, or 20. You can look up, called Vitakka Santana Sutta. The Buddha gives, you have to replace it with something. So it is not running away from it, but temporary, changing the state, because every time this is such a powerful thing to understand how our emotions come about. Yeah, so any emotion, good or bad, plus or minus, positive or negative, they are called dhammas. Yeah? You can call all these things are phenomena. Yeah? All these things are conditioned. How is it made? How is it conditioned? The emotions are often conditioned by the way you look at it. So even if it is a physical trigger that is causing it, it has an associated mental state, like a way that you think about things that keeps it up. Otherwise, if it is purely, let's say, physical anxiety, it's only just, palpitations and things, mind is actually free. So then it's not a problem, it's just a physical sensation only. But we are now talking about the mental, like more the emotions like that, then it has a little way of thinking about something. I don't want this. Why is it like? What's going to happen? Whatever it is, there is an associated way of looking at the thing. So there is an object of concern and a certain way of looking at it. And as you keep going, contacting that object in that way, the emotion is kept up. So this comes up in the Mulaka Sutta, Manasikara Sambhava Sabbe Dhamma. So the way you give attention, Manasikara means the way you give attention, Sambhava means gives rise to Sabbe Dhamma, for all the Dhammas. So all of the emotions are created like this. During meditation also, that's what we do. We do Yoniso Manasikara, wise attention on a suitable object like the breath in order to become peaceful. So the negative emotions also come with an object, with the way unwise attention gives rise to that emotion. So it is really okay. You have two choices, yeah, at least two, where you can change the object or you can change the way you think about the object. Both are possible. So sometimes when the emotion is really strong, it is really hard to change the way you think, because it has a really groove has been formed, because you've been thinking about the thing in the same way again and again, probably for lifetimes, not only just this life. So it's easy to fall into that way of thinking. So it's very hard to change. So then it is okay to change the object until you get mental strength, enough joy. When you have enough joy, when you have enough mental energy, you can turn around the way you think about it. So this is why in the Vitaka Santana Sutta, the Buddha says, okay, if the defilement is really strong and overwhelming you, change it, replace it with something else, something wholesome. Yeah. So in even having a cup of tea, yeah, and fully paying attention to your cup of tea or coffee, or or going for a walk is really helpful. Wherever it is, just getting up from your place of sitting is the first step. If you are getting overwhelmed, just get up from where you're sitting or lying down and just go out and just look into a tree. Just changing your object, even that much, is starting to break it. Yeah. And then you can work with it later when you have more mental energy, when you are in a good state. Then you can think, well, you know the cause, why you thought about a certain thing. Then you can think, how can I wisely look into that? How can I apply the Dhamma into this? So this is like a whole course, but this is homework. This you can figure out. This is just the technique. Does it make sense? Yeah. So this is how we can work with it. So it's not about just staying with it. If it is getting overwhelmed, you change the object, you gather strength, and then you change the way you look at it and you work with it slowly. So that's one way. The other way is, if it is not too overwhelming, you just wait and you see it passes. And that's the end, just like the clouds. You can't hold on to the clouds. It's a beautiful, maybe work of art in the sky, but you can't hold on to it, right? It passes. Or it's just like the wind. You are like a tree. The wind just passes. Sometimes it's a bit strong, sometimes it's gentle. Whatever it is, it's not always windy. Yeah. So just having that kind of perceptions, and if you are able to stay, that also helps. And then you get a really good understanding about what these things are and how these things are so impermanent. The right view about that is an excellent opportunity to practice. Yeah, it's a really excellent opportunity to practice, to understand how all of these things are created, why they are created. Yeah, the conditions, why we think about things, the perceptions we have, all this delusion, yeah, the darkness, all the stories we've been told, the things that we've taken up. All of those things, slowly, slowly, we need to work with this and change them around. So this is where the work is, yeah. So this is where the work is, and this work we need to do. It doesn't just disappear. And in the meantime, you grow incredibly in wisdom. So this is the cooling effect. So what happens is right view grows. You understand about life. You understand about conditioned phenomena. You understand about our body, our mind, our perceptions, all of these things. And you come to understand how impermanent they are, how unreliable they are, how transient these things are. And you form this passion towards these things. Before you hold on to them, they're part of me. You identify yourself with them. Even it's so funny, like, many of us identify with our negative emotions much more than with our positive emotions. You become that. But you realize that, well, I can't be that all the time. I'm not the person who's depressed. I'm not the person who's angry. I'm not the person who's grieving all the time. We can't. There are always gaps. So you notice that, and then you see how silly that is, how silly we are. And then slowly, slowly, we grow in wisdom, and it becomes very cooling, yeah? And it becomes really, really cooling, yeah. Anyway, that's my little contribution towards that. So another hand go up before, maybe, not sure. Was it Richard who wanted to say something? Not sure. You are still muted, Richard.
Yes, hello, hello. I find my one abiding problem, as far as Sila is concerned, is actually speech. I always have a problem with I always have a tendency to swear. Not all the time, but sometimes, like if I get quite frustrated, so I end up sort of like swearing, and it's really quite embarrassing. So like, I don't intentionally do it. It just sort of like flares up. And then afterwards I'm like thinking, oh no, I've broken my sila with the speech. So like that seems quite a regular occurrence. Not all the time. That seems to be my main main problem with the sila. I mean, everything else with the sila seems fine, but it seems just speech. With the, I'm quite fine with with all the other aspects of the speech. I'm very careful with my speech. I don't gossip. I don't spread rumors. I don't. It's just that sometimes I get quite angry because unfortunately I've got friends of mine who are manic depressive, and and I'm friends with these people, and they can be very, very frustrating to deal with, and they're very, very sort of manipulative. So it's very draining emotionally to deal with such people. So obviously I do keep a distance from them as well, because you need to do so, because otherwise it's very emotionally draining.
Yes.
But it's just simply that that's my one boo boo is the swearing. So
Okay. Okay.
so I've
All
just
right.
that's my
Yeah.
one problem.
Yes, so this is tricky, yeah, because speech is very fast. Speech habits are very, very fast. And where do you get this from? This is the interesting part. I'm going to tell a funny story. When I was a uni student, way before I was a nun, I had an Italian housemate. Nothing against anything, but they're quite famous, and he would always swear in Italian. To me, it doesn't mean anything because it's only sound. I don't even know the meaning of all of those things because it's Italian. But just hanging around him because he's saying all these words, I ended up saying the same things.
Yeah.
And not even knowing what I'm saying, even the meaning of the swear word, I don't even know. Because he's also not doing it intentionally, it just comes out. And you just hang out with somebody like that, and you just end up doing like that. I'm just saying this to say that these things are conditioned, from a long time ago, maybe, or whatever. It be short term too. In my case, it was only matter of months, and then I was a big because my mom was going to come to visit me, and I was wondering what she's going to think about me.
Because I'm also very I'm by nature very, very temperamental as well. I've always been accused of not being English, so I've always been very temperamental by nature. Just my nature is very temperamental.
So the reason what I said this is also it can be reversed by also associating the right kind of people, because it not only goes one way, it goes the other way. So if within a matter of months I started swearing in Italian, in matter of months also I can start changing it. So then you have to see where it came from, or you can also pick up hanging around with few others who don't swear, or say something else like sugar instead of some other bad word. There are better things. If you must express your feeling with a word, use a better term, and hang around with people maybe who use that kind of terms, because speech training, reconditioning is best also by conditioning by others, because that is how we learn speech. So by no matter how much you know how bad it is and try to be mindful, very hard, because these things we learned also by hanging around people. So one is you have to sort of, if you can, you have to try to cut down people who are swearing just like you, and then also hang around if possible with people who say better things or better way of expressing. So this is my advice for the short time. And don't worry too much about it, because you don't intend to hurt or harm anybody. It's coming out, and most people understand in the world. It's just very natural for people to just express. They don't really mean what they say. So it's not a really bad, in the whole category of things. There could be much worse things. So not to make a big deal, but to know what you need to do in order to change it. Yeah, that much I will say for now. And we can go to Madeline. We have still 2 more minutes, or a little bit more maybe. I don't know.
I was thinking about what you were saying about regret and remorse in terms of the regret and remorse I feel about the actions of others. So not just ourselves, but others. And so, for example, the experiences I had in my childhood, and then the emotion that comes from that is anger. And intellectually, I know that emotion of anger is impermanent, and that I know the actions of others, not to take it personally, and that they are conditioned beings as well. But the feeling, so intellectually I know that, but the feeling's still there. And it keeps me quite unhappy and difficult to let go of. But I know I'm chipping away at it slowly, but sometimes it feels like, will I ever get to a point where I can let go of it? It just feels so difficult. So I have a question about that.
Yes, it is true. What you say is true. It's easy for me or anybody to sit here and just say, did you just, you're here, there still. Okay. It is easy to say, all the non-self, the conditioning. So, we need to forgive ourselves and forgive others, It's true. And we need to slowly do this. So the right view of this has to grow. It is doing its work much more. If you look back, you will see that it's doing its work, but not at the speed that we want to. because we also have these other things that are conditioned to get upset, get angry. There are other views of looking at it, yeah? And the things that we've been told that this is wrong, this shouldn't happen, this is this, and this is the extent of this, and all of those things as well. So not to underestimate, because we have a whole pool of right and wrong views struggling with each other. So not to worry too much, as long as you keep slowly building up, but not as only knowledge, but seeing it through you, slowly, as you see how you are conditioned with your actions, how others are conditioned. Slowly, it will change. But what is also important is sometimes we are not ready yet. And that is okay. We can't be just ready, because we are where we are at, right? So we have to accept that, and that is okay, that we can't completely do the right thing straight away. But at least knowing what the right thing and what to do is already very helpful, because this is really helpful. If we don't know, then we are really in a big problem. And so as you are practicing, as you are meditating, as you're growing in wholesome states, as this path, the joyous path, is taking off, right? More and more joy comes, because this is not your whole life, right? Whatever things that brings up anger or regret and remorse in your life is not the whole of your life. There are many other aspects of your life, right? So you can slowly take the focus away from those things and put the focus onto other things of life. We generally, human beings, have a tendency to focus on the most dramatic, most difficult kind of thing. I don't know why we find more excitement in these kinds of things in life in general, which is why news is the way it is. So we are like that. But slowly we can see, okay, my life is more than that, whatever happened to me or what is happening in. There's much more. So slowly change your attention and also make more of the gratitude part, the good things that are happening. Okay, whatever not good, leave to one side. I'm not ready to let go, and that's fine. I'm not ready to look at it in a good way, no problem. Just leave it to one side and build up the joy, the gratitude, the wholesome mind states. And when the mind has enough strength, enough joy, enough energy, you will see that, with the right view coming up, there will come a day that you will let it go. It will happen. You will let go. Letting go will happen. It's nothing to do with you as well anyway. This is the funny thing, right? So not to be too worried about it, but pay more attention to building up the gratitude, the joy, and good sides of things. So I think that is what we all need to do, instead of focusing on that one at a time when we are not ready. Because we all have all kinds of things, right? Because we can't just speak, I can't just say sitting here, because there's all kinds of things that people go through, that and it can be difficult, and big or small, to the person, their problem is the big problem. So we can't say, I have bigger problem, this is nothing, let go. It's not right. Yeah, whatever it is yours is important for you. And what you can do is what you can do. So you all need to do is, okay, accept the fact that you can't deal with it now, build up the joy states, and build up the right view. It will do the work by itself later when it's ready.
Thank
Is
you.
that okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right.